Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Black Boss Channel. I am your host, Jeff Lighty. Today, we've got a panel full of great filmmakers, screenwriters, actors here today to talk about the black man and their thoughts, what's taking place in Hollywood, how we depicted in movies and in television. And today, I have Mr. Marcus Small out of Orlando, Mr. Tony Lindsay out of New York, Jordan Bridges in LA, and also John F. Thomas in LA. If you guys could just be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. These guys are all over the movie industry, all over what's taking place in Hollywood and what's taking place in films. These guys have created films, have created shorts, and we need to support them. And we need to support black-owned movie making, black-owned television, black-owned screenwriting. So I'll get things started. I'll start with you, Jordan, because I think you're the youngest on the panel. What do you see living out in LA? What is kind of your depiction of what's taking place with movies, with black actors, with black screenwriters, and black directors out in LA? What's kind of your perspective of how we depict in different films and in television shows?
I would say it's becoming more diverse. We're breaking out of a lot of stereotypical roles. I think we're branching out into different type of avenues to show that we're more than just one type of. We can make more than one type of film, and so I think we're seeing a lot of more creativity from us. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, Jordan. So I'm gonna go to Tony. Tony, I know that you have a lot to say about the movie industry, a lot to say about what's taking place in Hollywood and things like that. Tony, what is your perspective of the black man in Hollywood, the black man movie maker, and the black man screenwriter slash director?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me on this panel. Well, I will agree with Jordan, but I think that more so applies to the independent uh, filmmaking community because when it comes to Hollywood and the bigger productions, I mean, black men, I believe, are for the most part poorly represented in Hollywood, right? Like if we're it's like if we aren't portrayed as like thugs or drug dealers or violent like domestic abusers, we're portrayed as like overtly feminine and emotionally dependent. So, like as a filmmaker, I believe that all representations must exist in film. However, there's like a concerted effort, I believe, on my part to either present or just give exclusive access through the door for a certain depiction of black boys and men. So, and I have a son, so these things really matter to me, like the way that society depicts people who look like him, because ultimately that's going to shape the narrative that he's judged by society. Did I just get bumped out?
Oh shoot, I don't know. Hold
Wait,
up.
what? I only see me right now.
Yeah, I want to see you too.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, all right, I think Jeff might have gotten bumped out for a second.
Oh.
So, I mean, I guess we can continue with the conversation a little bit, even though it's like focused on me right now. So we can go to John real quick.
Yeah, man. I'll talk about it. So I think that I agree with you on the independent scene. It's tougher to get our stuff out because we're trying to have like a lot more positive images, like tell different stories. But like in mainstream media, like we are getting more jobs like in front of the camera, but like what about behind the camera? And I think we are getting jobs behind the camera, but even still, are we in control of the narrative? And that's the issue that I kind of have a problem with because it's just like, well, like, yeah, that's great, like the movie Soul, like that's cool, but again, here we are again where a black character is turned into a thing or some creature or whatever, and it just really sucks because it's just like, why can't we be just a full fleshed out character for the entire movie? Why does the blackness is kind of pulled away from, just to focus on something else, which is good. They have great stories to tell, but other cultures, they're able to, like Mulan, she was never turned into a creature. You know, you got to see her be her full Asian self and learned about her culture, learned about her family, about respect for elders, respect for your family, honor, and all of that stuff. And that was heavily into their Asian culture, but with black characters in these movies. Like in Soul, like what did you get? Like, oh, hey, we got the barbershop, bruh. We got the they would chop
Right.
it. Oh, I mean, which is cool. That's
Right.
nice, but it's almost like a symbolic gesture, you know. So it's just like, well, what's the? I mean, that's nice, but we want more. Like, stop giving me these crumbs. I don't care about the crumbs. Dive into. I want where people can watch our movies and they're like, oh wow, I didn't really know that. Outside of what you typically see as, oh, black families typically have large families, and black families tend to, you know, always kind of rip and joke on one another and stuff
Right.
like that. That's the typical. That's very surface level stuff. I'm talking about going deeper. You know, outside of, oh, black people love going to church, and black people love having a cookout, and black people love to dance and all that. You're like,
So
okay, that's
basically, the caricature of
the
blackness.
caricature stuff. It's
Right.
very caricature stuff, and that's how people view us. So that's what the media is showing us, and that's the thing that I am tired of on a mainstream level. But I'm glad with people like us, you know, that we are able on the local level, you know, moving up to you
Right.
know mainstream to where we can start injecting in new stories, new perspectives, things that they haven't even really they don't show that often, you know, like black love. You don't really see that much in mainstream media. But I'm talking a lot, so I'll pass the mic.
No, so that's interesting what you say, John. One thing that I've sorry, you guys. By the way, my computer like crashed in the middle of in the middle of Tony speaking. My computer literally
It's
crashed.
okay. We kept it going.
Yeah, I was glad. I was glad to see. I was tuned in. So, speaking of like the images of black love and the different type of images, Marcus, I want to ask you this. One thing that I find, or that I talk to people about, they always say that black people, at least the movie business, they don't have a diversity of roles, right? Like they say it's always like Tony mentioned earlier, the stereotypical, whether it's the drug dealer, the drug addict, the shoot 'em up, kill 'em, or things like that. Marcus, is that something that you also see, or what's kind of your perspective on that?
Oh yeah, I have friends that are actors, and one issue that they have is that there aren't enough roles, and then the roles that they are auditioning for, they're all going out for the same thing. First of all, and most of the time it's a stereotypical role. Drug dealers. If you're light skinned, you know you have a particular role. If you're dark skinned, you're definitely a drug dealer, a bad guy. Look at like most of the villains that we have. Even and I wouldn't just put it on the dominant society of like in Hollywood, as you say. It's not only them doing it; it's we're doing it too to each other. We're other filmmakers, we're doing it to each other. But I feel like there's a threshold, there's a bump in quality, and here's my thing about another point I want to make before I finish that thought. It's not like we don't have talented actors. Like I would go out on a limb and I would say Denzel, you have your Denzel Washingtons, your Jamie Foxxes, the Will Smiths. Like that's the highest of high. That's the caliber. That's the top. So I just feel like and then we have like actors that are coming up that are filling in the gaps. And then there's another thing that we're doing. We're infighting within our community is the black American actors versus the European black Africans over there that we're all fighting for the same jobs. Like Idris Elba came over here. He's from the UK, and a lot of black Americans they're thinking, oh, he took my job, he took my role. So there's a lot of infighting within ourselves. So we have to clean that up first. And then on top of that, that's why it's important for us to, narrate our own storylines, produce our own films and TV shows and all that good stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. That is definitely something that is very definitely important, right? Like to create your own platform, to create your own movies, because that way you can depict the black people or depict our people in lights that we want to rather be seen in. Jordan, I want to come to you about this. What are some of like the pros and cons in working in LA and working in the movie business? And I'll get to everybody with the same question, but like, what are some of the good things, but also some of the downfalls of working in the movie business, especially being out there in LA?
I mean, I'm pretty new. I haven't been in it for that long. I would say like just being in the independent scene is probably just the funding of it, like getting the money behind your product. I think I've been lucky to find a community where we're, where it's a lot of people that are uh, trying to make films. So I've met a lot of people that we're all trying to get it together. So that part's not that hard that hasn't been that hard to find people. Like the moment I found one person, I found another person, I found another person, because we built a crew together and stuff like that. But just like I would say, yeah, just I feel like the money part behind it, and of course once you get it all together and trying to sell it, that's where I think the hardest part is right there. And also sometimes getting everybody to work together on the same accord, and it's a lot of competition, especially out here, and just trying to make sure that you're around the right people and people aren't trying to get over on you and stuff like that, because it's a very competitive type of environment and everybody's trying to make it. So
I had a question. Being a new filmmaker over there in LA, like what are you and your crew, what are y'all mostly working on right now?
So the first thing I did, I met someone through my cousin who's a barber, and he cut a director's hair, and he introduced us. And then the first thing we did together was a feature. So that's the first thing we did, and then from there we went and we're working on a series right now. So I've filmed a total of three things. This series we're working on is going to be like a 10 episode thing. So that's as far as I've gotten so far, and that's where kind of the role we're working on right now.
John, I kind of want to go to you and talk about some of the pros and cons of being out there in LA, in Hollywood, and what are you seeing as some of the benefits, but also some of the downfalls of being out that way.
Man, it's kind of funny, man. Like they're like, especially being from Tennessee. Okay, so and almost probably anywhere that's not in where the big productions are. Like LA, New York, Atlanta. Places like that. Coming from Tennessee to LA, there are a mass amount of things I can audition for. So those are pros. Like it's cool. I can audition for a lot of things. I'm basically right down the street. I can go there. That's the beautiful thing. And there are roles for Black people. So that's the pros. The cons, however, are I mostly, just like Tony was saying, I go in and I play a thug, or I play the best friend to the white character, or I'm playing a Black character who I noticed this a lot recently too, even like on a kind of like a lower level, because you see this like with Will Smith and some of the bigger actors where they are the biggest Black actors are put alongside white women or women of other colors. Never will you see Will Smith positioned next to a Black woman, because then they'll look at that as that's a Black film. We can't market that because it can't be a Black film. He has to be next to a Margot Robbie or next to a Jennifer Aniston or whoever is the hottest white actress nowadays. I've been noticing characters where I've been put towards like, oh, the person that I'm talking to, oh, it's a white girl. Okay, another role, oh, it's a white girl. So stuff like that. So that's been disheartening because they're not trying to showcase that Black love. I'm constantly in the running for a detective. I mean, because it's basically like these niches where you're a police officer, detective, or you're a thug. It's either you're upholding the law or you're breaking the law, or you're just this kind of you're this Black guy, but you're emasculated in a sense, and you're talking to this white girl who she's really the man of the relationship, and you're just kind of following along and stuff like that. So that sucks. That's a con. And just like Jordan was saying, like trying to get the funding for your own projects, getting people to buy into your projects, and you'll see other people who have projects that don't even look anything nowhere near as good as yours. The story isn't nowhere near as great. You go to all these festivals and you'll see so much money being put into this garbage in a sense. And I hate to be just so blunt like that, but you'll see some stuff that it's just like, how did you get $10,000 for this? And I know people, and even outside of me, I'm not even talking about me. I know people who are extremely talented, like giving them some money. They have an amazing script. Like this would be amazing. But because they're Black, they don't really get that funding like how white people, and it can be a lot of different reasons why that is, but those are a lot of the cons, and just trying to break out of that to, like I said, change the narrative. And you want to be more, but you're constantly fighting against this machine that wants to. Oh, and the last thing is, whoever's the hottest black actor at the moment, as an actor. So I would go to an audition, or I see something online, and it'll have their sheet where it's just like, oh, we're looking for a Michael B. Jordan type.
Wow.
And it's just, well, how in the hell am I gonna get this? I don't look anything like Michael B. Jordan. Or looking for a Chadwick Boseman type. It's like, I'm not dark skinned enough to be Chadwick. They're not looking for me. It's like so who do I play? I just play that one guy with the one line all the way in the back. So I got to take on a lot of these. It's just like stuff like that. So those are the cons.
Tony, I want to come to you. What we've heard a lot about funding, and we know that you put together a film as well. If you just tell us the name of your film and just how did the funding go for putting together your film, and also, do you feel like you were supported by the community when you released the film, or was it something that you kind of got some pushback on, or maybe not as much support as you expected? I think you're on mute, Tony.
Sorry about that. You got me? You hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the funding from my movie, I completely funded it myself. So I executive produced the film myself. Some of you may know, I'm also a real estate investor and entrepreneur. So, I've always been of the business model of, if you aren't willing to invest in your project or in your business, then you won't be able to get anyone else to do that. So I truly believe in the film. So yeah, I put up the money to do it, like from the beginning to the end. And I did get, a pretty good groundswell of support. However, there are cons to this business as well, because as a small filmmaker, and the first time filmmaker, the access isn't what you would expect it to be. Right. So there are pros. Like I know you were asking about the pros of the industry and the cons of the industry. Mm-hmm. I would say that the pros are, well, one of the pros is just the networking in itself, right? Getting in that door and networking with so many different people, talented people, and it always yields some type of a result of a connection to something down the line, something better that's coming along, right? And another pro is that it gives you insight into the industry. That's a pro. You get like clear insight into the movie industry. But a con is you get insight into the movie industry, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure everybody here, you've worked on sets. I don't know how many people have worked on like a feature film set or a larger set. And one thing that always kind of turned me off about this industry is the horrible treatment that I see of crew members from the higher ups on set who should know better. Being a businessman myself, I know that when you have a happy staff, you get productivity, you get, the utmost of productivity from what you're working on. So I guess I took some of my practices in business and I applied it to the way that I ran my set, and everything went smoothly. I made a lot of very good friendships, deep friendships. Some of the, larger names that were in my film. Oh, by the way, the name of the film is Where Hearts Lie. And, I have a slew of young, new talent in that film. Many of them who have gone on to bigger things, like, doing things on Oprah's network, OWN TV. Alexander Mozak, he was the lead in the film. Also had Ebony Obsidian. She's been like all over the place, like doing a whole bunch of stuff. So, I was very happy with the way it turned out. And so there are advantages, but then there are disadvantages. But at the most part, the one thing that turns me off the most about the entire industry is, as I said before, the caricature of Blackness, which is why I think we need to focus more on creating our own vehicles to the success that we want to see in this industry. Because remember, things are as valuable as you believe they are. So if we create it, just like it applies to the stock market, we see these stocks, it's as valuable as you actually believe it is. So if we actually truly believe in the value of what we're doing and what we're building, I think we can see it all skyrocket.
Marcus, I want to come to you just on the same tip. You had a film you put out called The Melanin Code. Just kind of tell me how that went about, how that kind of came together for you, and what was kind of the feedback that you've gotten and the support in the community or lack thereof of support. Just kind of tell me how that went for you and how it's been going since. You're on mute, Marcus.
We all doing this.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. My kids in the other room, so I didn't want it to bleed over the mic. But yeah, so I am the producer and director of The Melanin Code. I would say when it first started, I was inspired by, number one, my favorite documentary in the whole wide world is this documentary called Zeitgeist, and it changed the way I looked at life. And then Tariq Nasheed put out Hidden Colors, and I was a big fan of that. I actually I put my bid into to edit and direct that one. Not really direct, but just be a part of that as well. And so that kind of inspired me too. So when I did The Melanin Code, we have this woke community, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna make this documentary, and then everybody's just gonna, accept it with praise and glory. And I reached out to a lot of the OGs, and because I didn't have any clout in the industry, and I call woke industry, I hate using that word, but it will use it for this term. I didn't have any clout in the woke industry. And so I got pretty much turned away by everybody except for Dr. Boyce. I think he's probably the only one that saw the potential. And that was through Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, and which I'm forever indebted to that, because when I started raising money for it, I'm talking about it started off on fire. I think I raised like $5,000 the first day or something like that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on my way. And then it plateaued. And then it's just like, and then I ultimately ended up raising, I think it took me about 2 years. I think I ultimately ended up raising maybe like around 20,000, but I put a lot of sweat equity in there and a lot of my own money in there. So I reinvested just like Tony did. I think I probably spent about maybe 100 to 150,000 just in that film itself. So I swore, I was like, listen, I'm never doing this again. Like I put my all into it because I felt like it was my baby. I had a reality show on Lifetime. I'm in both industries, the films, feature films, and also reality shows. So I had that going for myself. But ultimately, this documentary was my baby. And at some points, I'm not going to lie, I felt betrayed by my people, but there were a lot of supporters. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and act like they were. But the biggest gratitude that I get, and the overwhelming feeling that I get is joy, because it only takes like a few people to reach out to me. They'll DM me, hey man, I just saw The Melanin Code, and it changed the way I looked at life as well. And that's worth any amount of money that I ever put into it. So yeah, I would say that funding, we have to do better as a people to fund our own stuff, because we always complain about the mainstream media, but we don't own the mainstream media. We don't own our own stuff. So and then I will put responsibility too on these athletes. If these athletes only knew how powerful they were, because they have all this money right now, a lot of them, of course, we know the stories about them losing their money. If they just reinvested their money into media right now, then they would see the fruits of their labor. They would see, they would have return on investment, and ultimately that will build wealth within our community as well. It's just a cycle. So I challenge like the celebrities, I challenge like the athletes, anyone with money basically and clout, I would say that, to reinvest in the community. Like there are so many hidden gems. There's so many bright filmmakers, Black melanated filmmakers coming up. Invest in them.
No, so yeah, no, that's absolutely right. One of the things that we do see, and I'll ask you this, Marcus, do you believe that because of the subject matter of your film is why it didn't get the attention that you may feel like it should be? Like, right, like maybe if you would have went this direction instead of like more of the target more of the woke community or the people that you feel like should have been tuned in, do you feel like it was the subject matter that maybe turned off a lot of people, or maybe that's why you didn't get the funding you expected?
Listen, had I made a documentary that was similar to Love and Hip Hop, which I worked on before, I'm not knocking it, but let's be honest. If I made a documentary similar to that thing would have raised money in no time, because that's what type of people we are. We like messy stuff, but then when it comes to being enlightened, until it's like blatantly forced upon ourselves to, put in our face, we won't really accept it. I just think that for every Love and Hip Hop, there should be like a Melanin Code. There should be like a Hidden Colors. It's just about balance. It's cool. I like ratchet stuff too. I like drama. Shoot, I'm a reality show producer. I love all that stuff. But at the end of the day, we have to have balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Tony, do you have something?
Yeah, I was just saying, and it's a shame that sometimes the best way to get people's attention is by, putting shiny stuff in front of them. You know what I'm saying? That's how you get people's attention. That's the ratchet stuff. That's the Love and Hip Hops and all those reality show types of thing. And yeah, they have their place, but unfortunately, when it comes to, as Marcus said, enlightenment, it's not as attractive to people. So maybe we should just work on finding ways to make it more attractive. But I do see hope. I do see a ray of hope because I see an awakening amongst our people. I really do see it. Like in all my years, like I'm seeing such a conscious community. And I don't know if it's just the younger generation that's just not tolerating the BS anymore, but I'm encouraged by it. And I also see the whole independent lane growing at an exponential rate, whether it's in news media, whether it's in film. I just see it growing, and largely in part due to social media, the internet, all of these vehicles that we have. But I just don't want us to become too reliant upon some of the vehicles that are in place, and we need to build our own. I'm always going to circle back to us building our own institutions so they cannot take it away from us. Because at the end of the day, all it takes is for one person to just flip the switch and all of this is gone. So we need to plan. We need to prepare for that. You know what I'm saying? Because, I think as Black people, we tend to be the trendsetters in society. We're the ones that everybody looks to for the latest craze, the fad. Let's be real. You know what I'm saying? Everybody follows our lead. Everybody wants to be Black, but nobody wants to be Black. So, if we just get a little wiser about the presentation and our position of influence, I think we can easily dominate this entire industry. And listen, just like they say, change starts from the bottom up. So I think everyone here is in an advantageous position to really affect that change.
Once again, I'm talking to 4 brilliant filmmakers, a part of the movie industry all around the country. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, John, I'm coming to you on this because your film, I watched Emoticall, by the way, and I've seen that it is definitely different. It's not a gangster movie. It's not no drug selling. It's almost like sci-fi, right? Like it's got a sci-fi aspect to it. Just kind of tell me about the inspiration of making a movie like that, because that's not something we see a lot in the Black community.
I loved it, by the way.
You're on mute as well.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. My bad. No, thank you. I appreciate it, man. No, it's this, me and my best friend, I had this idea about this film because it was for a film festival. And, we were doing that, but then after a while, I started, thinking like, man, I can stretch this out even more because you don't see films like this. So hopefully y'all can see this is a little bit of behind me so that so people can see it. But yeah, there it is, Emoticall. For those who want to see it, and there it is right there. But we don't have any films that showcase us. Like that's why I was saying before, like doing things out of the norm. Because most of the films that you see films of like Black families getting together, but they're highly, highly dysfunctional. Not saying that there aren't movies where there's white families that get together and they're dysfunctional, but the Black people, they can't get along. Somebody's going to start fighting in the film. All kind of just super highly dysfunctional stuff. And then there's other Black films where it's like love Black films where, it's the woman, she's so independent, she don't need a man, but then the man comes along and says, hey, you don't need to be independent anymore. And it's just that. So it's most of the like kind of those films or slave films, slavery or civil rights films. And I get so tired of seeing, especially the slavery and civil rights films. It's like we can do a lot of great things too. We can be superheroes, but the thing I've been noticing, like the superhero movies, like Hancock, for instance, they had to inject a white guy. And for some reason, Hancock is just a super drunk kind of dude. He can't do anything right. He's just a drunkard. How is this even a superhero? Like, this is something you shouldn't even look up to. So you leave from that movie like, that's a good movie, but I would never show that to my kids, or at least be like, hey, here's your Hancock action figure. Like, that's not happening.
And the white woman was
It
his
was the wife, yeah.
His
Yeah,
Achilles
right.
heel.
demise.
Right? You know, so they injected all this stuff in, so it's like stuff like that, but you don't really see, but like a film like Meteor Man, and that was for the Black community, like Robert Townsend, and that's a hit for us. But you talk to anybody else, they don't know about that. Not that they need to know about it. That's fine, because we don't need to be getting any kind of white approval or white praise. That's fine, but we need to start praising our films. Really start pushing these films more. Just like Tony was saying, if we up its value and we know Meteor Man is the bomb, then other people will see it because we're the trendsetters. You know, we just need to promote our own stuff, boost up our own stuff, and everybody else will hop on board. And that'll be great, because we don't care if y'all hop on board or not anyway. We got this. So with all of that being said, I was like, you know, there's never really, like the sci-fi films, you see maybe the white captain like in Star Trek, and then you have the black subordinate she's working under, but there's a love thing. But again, it's like mixed, you know, it's not black love, but it's, you know, but they never really lead anything, or they never really save the day. It's mainly it's like, where do all these black people go? Where did the black people go? So there's only like one black person, one Asian, and everybody else is white. So I guess they left all the black people on Earth or something. I don't know. But I was like, with this film, I wanted to make something to where there isn't any kind of white savior complex. There isn't anybody white coming in to save the day. It's strictly just black people. Black people, for black people, are saving the world. It's up to them to save the world. And so, and the crazy thing was, I was so indoctrinated in this system, in a sense, like kind of brainwashed by the system, that I almost talked myself out of making it an all black cast. And it's sad just to see how much this works. Cause I was just like, man, maybe people won't support it because it's, you know, so all black people. Maybe I just need to put like maybe one white person, or maybe one Hispanic person, you know. And after a while, I had to kick myself in the butt. Like, you are the executive producer. You put in your money. Nobody is over you. Why are you doing this to yourself? But I had to realize that, and I put this out, and it's gotten some really great feedback. I can relate to what Marcus was saying, where it's just like you weren't really getting the support initially, but I've been getting like some great support as time goes on, as people have been coming up, and I haven't recouped all my money back yet, but it's fine, you know, because I'm getting like a lot of praise from it, and I'm just trying to take this and, just like what Tony said, just build on top of that, network with other people, just get with people who want to be on the same page to really push our narrative forward. And so that's what I love about things like this, and I want to make more projects like this, you know, action adventure films with black people saving the world, and, you know, stuff like that. I don't know, just other stuff outside of what we usually get to see with black people that we constantly see with white people.
Definitely, no doubt. Now, one of the biggest. What would you say, Marcus?
Sorry, I want to piggyback off that, because we talk about the white savior. He brought that up, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, they look at movies and they think that the black character is the savior. But if let's look at Django. Django had a white savior. People think that Jamie Foxx was the hero, but he didn't, because he never killed the villain. He didn't kill Leonardo DiCaprio. That was another white man, his partner, that killed him. So we have to be conscious of that and recognize game when it comes to that. Also, we talk about like sci-fi movies, horror films, stuff like that. We noticed, now they caught this back in the day, but it still kept happening, that the black person will always be the first one to get killed. So I made sure. So I have a horror film that's coming out, right? One thing I told the producers, I said, listen, they had a diverse cast. They had a white dude, a Hispanic girl, black girl, Asian girl, and I forgot what the other character was. I think it was like he's like exotic. You can say he's from another country. Anyway, I told him, I was like, listen, I don't care who's dying in what order. I just know one thing. The black girl is not dying first. She's not dying second, and she's not dying third. So as long as we're under this understanding, as long as we can agree with this one, we have a deal. And, you know, I got my way, because I'm not pushing that narrative again, that, you know, that whole stereotypical thing where the black person, because the whole purpose of that was because nobody's supposed to care about the black character anyway. So he's a sacrifice. He or she is a sacrifice. So then the movie can progress that. You know that killer is the real deal, because they kill a black person. So no, we're not doing that anymore. So I need other filmmakers to step up and do the same thing.
Real quick, I want a little piggyback off of that. The same way that you see how we're treated as expendable in these films, we're also treated as expendable for the most part in the industry. So I think that if we, I think we need to stop gauging our oh God, I think we need to stop gauging our product based on their yardstick. You know what I'm saying? I don't want us to measure the quality of what we have based upon what we see from, the big budget films where we're boxed out anyway. I think that's the major problem that we have in the independent film industry. It's like we're trying to do our best to mimic that other lane when we have our own lane. And that's where we should thrive. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys, the African movies, those, like it was like a cult thing. Like everybody, like you could not tear away from them. I love those African films, right?
And they suck so bad, but they suck so. I mean, it's hard not to watch it anymore.
It's like $1 billion industry, though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're doing what's comfortable for them in their lane, and they're supported by their people.
Exactly.
By black people. Because listen, we all the way over here, and we support it. We love it. I love watching them. I see some of them on Facebook, and I watch it, and I can't tear myself away.
Yeah,
that's the attitude we need to take towards our industry right here.
Yeah, it's hard to start watching them, man. I think I got caught up watching something. I forgot what it was. I got to save though, because I was like, I got to come back to this because it was bad, but it was good. It's like, oh man,
right.
It's so interesting though.
There's a lot of talent in our community. There's a whole lot of talent in so many different areas.
And they have nothing. I mean, the cameras that they use were the cameras that we were using 20 years ago. And they are still like, they don't know the technical stuff. They don't know about slating. They don't know about living people up the mics. They might not even have the budget for a live mic. But hey, as long as you can hear them a little bit, that thing is
the sound is horrible.
I wanted to say, because I think somebody asked, I don't know if you was talking about my movie or y'all's movie, but I guess we can all say where they can find all of our movies. But you can find my movie Emoticall on Amazon Prime, or if you want, Amazon Prime, they take half. So if you want to give more to my company, just reach out to me on Facebook or reach out to me on Instagram. That way you can give money directly to my production company, and I'll send you the link to watch the film.
Have you put it on Vimeo, like Vimeo on demand? You can put it up there too, just independent.
That's why the Melanin Code is on Vimeo. Like it's the whole the website, but
you get a larger share,
much
larger share than Amazon would give you.
But Amazon is a bigger platform. A lot of people don't have. I mean, every smart TV can pretty much download Vimeo, but a lot of people don't. They're not aware of Vimeo. So Amazon still is a good option as well, though. But yeah, Vimeo takes a much lesser cut.
Yeah, and the only problem with Amazon though, and they've just recently restructured the split. It's like you're getting nothing, but I mean, it's still good to put it there. I mean, listen, what's most important is the exposure. So when I put out my movie, listen, man, I ain't really see anything personally from it. But then, see, that's another thing we need to talk about, whether today or at another time, is when you actually the mechanisms that you use to put your movie out, because in some cases, you have to go through like a distributor. Some people use an aggregator. I don't know how you guys, did yours, but I had to basically go through a third-party distributor. And I can't really get too much into that. But, there's a saying, like when you get in the door, you got to decide, like it's either with grease or without.
So yeah, you getting it.
Right. But just remember, what's most important is getting your product out there. Just remember that. So sometimes, your first go, you may not see. I mean, for the majority of filmmakers, first-time filmmakers, you're not really going to see anything, monetarily. But what's most important is the exposure and the access. So, when people, let your film. My film ran for 3 years on Aspire TV. I really didn't see nothing from it. But guess what? Every time I talked about, oh, that was you. Oh, yeah, I saw that film. So that's what you want. And it adds to your resume when you do your next film and you're ready to take it to, like, say, a Netflix or some other platform, because now you have experience and you've had something on, whether it be network TV for a certain amount of time, or something else. So that's just basically my input on that.
As long as you don't keep getting the grease. I think
right, exactly.
You just got to move up.
You got to learn
always
from
be the first one.
Luckily, I tailored my contract with an out, because I looked ahead, because you already know the way all of these contracts are structured. When you first get in there, you're going to get it. You are going to get it without grease. So I just put a little bit of grease in there.
No, that's funny. So we're talking to 4 brilliant filmmakers, John F. Thomas, Jordan Bridges, Marcus Small, Tony Lindsay. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe. Now, I did a video that's kind of taken off a little bit. It was about a man by the name of Tyler Perry. He's also a filmmaker. Obviously, he creates TV shows, plays, and all of this different stuff. It got some pushback, but it got some support. And one of the things that I pointed out was the genre and what takes place in a lot of Tyler Perry movies. He's someone that is mainstream. He's probably, I would argue, the biggest filmmaker in our community. I just want to get you guys' thoughts on Tyler Perry and some of the work that he does, and whether you think that if he's good or bad for our community.
Oh, nobody wants to touch that one. I'll touch it.
But go first.
That's a loaded question for upcoming filmmakers. But
there we go.
Yeah, I don't have anything. I don't have a problem responding to it, though, because I do this purely for the art. You know what I'm saying? And while I think I'm a pretty good filmmaker and I do want to do more films in the future, I have no problem speaking my mind. And that's probably why this industry, I don't know, I'll either make it really big or, there'll be a lot of pushback. But honestly, I think that Tyler Perry is useful. He's very, I think that he provides an excellent example as from a business standpoint on how to build an empire in this industry, right? I'm very good friends with Clifton Powell. He was in my film as well. And, we talked a lot about, just the whole process as a new filmmaker. And one thing he said that he really admired was the fact that I was willing to invest so much into my project. I was EP, I directed it, I wrote it. So, he seemed very impressed with the risk I was willing to take with my own funds. And that's the same sort of risk that Tyler Perry took with his projects. Remember, he went all in with his money. And absolutely, from a business standpoint, when it comes to them profits, brothers, you raking it in. See, that's ownership. And from that perspective, I think that's something that we need to adopt, that sense of ownership of your property. You get what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I do think he plays in a lot of stereotypical depictions that are harmful to our community. I think he exacerbates this colorism in our community with a lot of his films. I think maybe he's getting a little better, because I saw one film that I thought was actually not too bad, but how can I tell that man what to do with his films? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of it is based on his experiences, as he said before, so I can't speak to that. I just think that's more our responsibility as upcoming filmmakers to put out product that, will negate those stereotypes. Yes, he has the biggest platform right now, but guess what? There's more of us than him. So I can still celebrate the accomplishments of him, but I also know that we have a responsibility to push back against the poor caricatures that he presents of our community.
I'll also say, too, a lot of people clown his movies and, they say they suck and stuff like that. It's you have your personal taste. But I will say this. He has a movie that's like non-stereotypical, and it's called Daddy's Little Girl. And I don't think that movie did well, And so, like, people didn't support that. So why would he make other movies like that? People support the Medea movie, because the Medea movies, the first time I saw Medea was when he was doing the plays. And my family, we would get around on TV during Christmas and watch Medea. So automatically, like, that's what they were attracted to. They weren't attracted to. If that play would have been about Daddy's Little Girl, they probably wouldn't have done that. So it's just he's in tune with his market. And that's why you have to respect him. So you might not like the quality. You might think the acting sucks, stuff like that. You might think whatever. But at the end of the day, he's providing content for the people that want to pay to see it.
But it is stereotypical, though. I got to say, I got to push back a little bit, because Daddy's Girl Daddy's Little Girls was still full of massive stereotypes. Just look at the baby mama and the drug dealer, boyfriend, the kids and all that. So
I tried.
I was just about to rip it apart. I'm not gonna lie. It was the mama that gave up her 3 daughters to be with a drug dealer. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
rough, man, it's got.
But I think he's trying to do. He's taking heed to some of the criticism, which I can appreciate, because with all the criticism he got with that last film, the one with the lady that. Like
the one on Netflix, that
the dude with the bad wig on his head, and
okay,
I forgot the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about. She got locked up for murdering him, and he really wasn't killed or something like that.
A fall from grace.
Fall from grace. Like, I mean, let's be honest. For a man that's worth as much as he's worth, you shouldn't have seen those types of like production mistakes in that film, and and you can't be rushing your product like that. You know what I'm saying? So. We can't get to the point where we don't want to offer helpful critique because of who he is, because of the symbolism of who he is, because then it does us all a disservice when it comes to the craft. You know what I'm saying? But I think he's been taking heed, and he put out this thing where he said he doesn't have a writer's room, like he doesn't. I'm like, bro.
I was gonna get to that
but he's changed that. He's changed his position on that, and I heard he's been hiring a lot more writers. I just hope that you're not gonna, do what a lot of these guys do and just kind of sop up other people's intellectual property and just kind of give them a couple of bucks and say, get out of here.
Right. I would say that he does a lot of people's critique is him capitalizing off Black trauma.
Yes.
So. And that's a lot of might have a connection to like people being tired of the slave movies and the police brutality movies. It's just like it's all Black trauma, and we want to see something different than Black trauma. We want to see Black people being in successful positions, and because Black people are very successful in real life, so it's like why can't we show that? You know what I mean? So,
but that's why I think
you gotta make it.
That's why I thought that Get Out was like groundbreaking, because it had our trauma in there. Mm-hmm. But like the reality, it didn't go the normal approach. It didn't take that normal approach. It was like, a thriller. It was like mind-boggling. It was all over the place. So yeah, and it preyed upon our deepest fears, which is like being lynched and stuff like that. No,
absolutely.
So I think that's why I think we have filmmakers like Jordan Peele, brilliant filmmakers. So that's what we have to lean towards now. We have to just break new grounds.
Yeah,
Jordan, you're right on that one. You're right on the money with that one.
Yeah, I would say for Tyler Perry has done a lot of great things, right? I mean, that's just hands down. I mean, this dude went from living in his car to going back to what Tony was saying. He completely funding his own projects. People were not showing up to his shows. His mama and maybe his cousin and a person that used to work with him. It was like 3 people, showing up to his shows, but he kept putting it out, even though it was seeming like, dude, you need to stop. Like nobody is supporting this stuff. You need to stop.
Right.
And he, so I support. I highly praise his tenacity, his determination, his effort to showcase Black people, and to hire Black people, and even though a lot of things are problematic. For sure. But I mean, for him to achieve what he has achieved, he was able to create his own, basically, is it like the biggest studio in America?
Yeah, it's the biggest studio on the East Coast, yeah.
Right. So
in America, I think, yeah.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is now you got I think they were filming, I think maybe Coming to America 2 and
some award shows and some different
Might Is My Name, and all I think what was it?
Wild Out. They filmed that. They used to, of course, before.
Right. I know. So it's like you bringing people like, hey, and that's pouring more money into your own media, Black community, allowing them a space just to, hey, come here, be Black. I'm not gonna tell you, how to be Black or whatever, etc. Just do your thing. Nobody white is gonna come up and tell you what you can and can't do. I think that's beautiful. But as one of the commenters in a section said, just because they're Black doesn't mean that you can't to criticize, and you can't rightfully call out some things that are problematic. There are some things that are problematic. They're showing Black people in a negative light a little too much. Maybe show more successful Black people just dealing with problems. Like for instance, the Cosby Show. And if you think about like when you had Good Times and and what was What was the name of the Jefferson show? Moving on up. No, that's
Yeah. Sanford and Son. Sanford and Son.
No,
Good Times.
No, the Jeffersons. You talking about the
Jefferson,
Jeffersons?
yeah, the Jeffersons. Yeah. all of
I'm a little older than y'all. I know
young
them shows.
Tony.
I used to watch them.
But so you have like shows like the Jeffersons and Good Times, to where it's like struggling families. Well, Jefferson is like we made it, but we're still kind of struggling. But you have a show like the Cosby Show. You haven't seen anything like that where you've seen a doctor, a successful doctor, a successful lawyer, has a beautiful family, diverse, all colors kind of family, and they don't deal with the stuff that there was a critique there. It's just like you're not really connecting really to the Black community because you're talking about stuff that we don't really deal with. True, but you need that as well. The same thing like we were talking about with music, hip hop music. As much as you're talking about the drug dealers and hoes and strippers and all this stuff, you need to have a balance because we need to have some intellectual music, where some uplifting hip hop music. You can't just be so heavily one sided, and I think that's a problem. So where you have like a Jordan Peele, or you have a Marcus Small, or Tony Lindsay, myself, Jordan Bridges, and things like that. Like that's beautiful. Like these people, these independent artists, one of us could be the next Tyler Perry and push the envelope even more to where we can actually, give back to the community. But, you need that support, of course, but also don't quit because you never know when success is going to hit like Tyler Perry.
I have a question, Jeff. I know you're about to probably ask another question, but I have a question to all you all. So we were talking about the African films, right? And how like we laugh at them and they probably laugh at themselves making it, right? Do you think that Tyler Perry is doing the same thing? He's laughing at his own movies because of the wigs, because of all the stuff like that that's happening? Or do you think that he's taking it so serious that, he's very in tune with his own creative ability that he doesn't look at it as like anything that's funny? Because we look at it, we laugh at it, and we're just like, God, it's awful, but we'll still watch it. You think that's going on in his mindset? Like, yeah, I know it's an awful film, and I also know it's not. I know it's an awful film, but you're gonna sit there and watch it anyway. What do you all think about that?
I think it's a mixture, but I think probably more so the latter. To where he is so keyed in.
Yes.
To where he's just like, what, I don't care if you like it, because he was putting on shows, that people weren't coming to see. So it's like, I don't care if you don't like it. I have my audience. I found my audience that likes it. Because like our mothers and fathers and aunties and grandmas, they gonna go see it, and they ain't really looking at it and laughing like how me and the younger generation look at that horrible wig, all this stuff. They don't care about it. They're just looking at the story. Because my mom will tune in on the OWN network and check out all of Tyler Perry's shows. Ooh, I gotta make sure I'm, we be sitting there talking. She ain't seen me in forever. No, hold on, I gotta sit down and watch the show. Let me call you back. I'll talk to you later. Like, oh, I called you. You don't want to talk to your son? I gotta watch Tyler Perry shows. So he has his audience. So I think he's like really keyed in.
Yeah, but
he takes it serious as well.
I think there's a little element of carelessness, kind of, because we can't ignore the types of resources that he has, to put out a decent product. So I think he's more prone to just skipping steps and just to get to the product the way he sees fit. And it's kind of like tunnel vision. And when you have so much control over the way things are going, you don't really have to listen to too many people. And I think that's evidenced by, him not having a writer's room and him, doing like the whole production of an entire TV series. I heard in like 5 days or something like that.
Yeah, like a week. I did read that.
That's a machine. We're talking about company moves. That means all the sets were already there and intact.
But he does own the studio, so I get that part. But that's an incredible amount of work on the actors. Like, I don't even know how they can even pull that off.
One take.
Yeah, that's right. But then when you think about that, like, how much care are you putting into the product when you say, okay, one take, let's go, get it out, move it along? It becomes a production line. You know what I'm saying? Just an assembly line. Let's just get the product out there, and who cares? That's the thing I'm saying. When I worked on my movie, listen, it was my first feature film. It was my first anything. Like, I didn't do like a short film and then go like step into feature. I went straight to feature. I was writing a book, And a friend of mine she's a producer, she just convinced me. She was like, man, this is good. You should just, convert this into a screenplay. So I did it. And I just decided to go all in. Sometimes you just got to do it. Just take that step. So somebody said earlier about, not letting people talk you out of your dreams. I so firmly believe in that, man. Don't let anybody convince you that you can't do something. You know what I'm saying? The people who say that that they can't do it, they're always like interrupted by the people who are actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? And so even with my film, like when we talk about the depictions, I specifically with my film wanted to attack the depiction specifically of Black men in the film in the movie industry. So like Mike, like the main character in my film, his name is Brave Williams. He's a loving partner. He's a devoted father, and he's a successful businessman, right? But he finds himself, vulnerable to the same sorts of issues that affect all of us when it comes to the family dynamic. So I wanted to present a film that glorified the Black family just as much as it addressed the other societal and cultural issues that we all face. And the best part of it all for me, like what Marcus said, was sitting in that movie theater when we had the premiere and just watching the reactions of the people. Like when you wrote a scene and you knew you wanted it to be funny, and then you see like rows and rows of people just dying laughing. Or when you get to another scene, like Clifton, he was sitting like next to me for most of the movie. He started crying at a certain part that I wrote specifically for it to be like heart-wrenching. So those types of things, man, it made it all worth it for me, no matter how much money came in for the movie.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Guys, I know I've held you a long time. I want to get you out on this one last question. We talk about the depictions of Black people and Black actors in Hollywood. One thing that I'm really interested in is your thoughts on historical movies, right? Like we know that a lot of times we get tired of like the slave type movies and the things like that. But also not just the slave movies, but the movies that depict our historical figures, whether it's Hidden Figures or Miles Ahead, the new up and coming movie, Judas and the Black Messiah, things like that. What do you think Hollywood's approach on our movies that deal with a lot of history, and is that something that we should really stand for, allowing them or really support them touching movies that cover a lot of our history and people like that? Because I get nervous sometimes when those movies come out.
So there's a series called, and I just got put onto this, called Godfather of Harlem. That series is probably one of the best series I've seen in a long time. And it was authentic. Like it had Malcolm X in there, Muhammad Ali. Like it was good. It was amazing. But one thing they had though that I found out, they had Professor James Smalls to kind of be like they're kind of like the facilitator to make sure that things were kind of intact. So I think that if Hollywood continues to make movies and TV series like that and content in general, of timepieces and historical references, then they have to have those people that were actually there to make it authentic.
Yes.
I don't feel like they're going to do that though. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to
do it like us.
Right. I don't want to be the cynic. Right. I mean, it falls back to me just saying that they're not going to do it, so we got to do it. And we can do it for less money, and we can trap the audience. We can get our audience for that. Because when it comes to like these depictions of Black people, slave movies, I'm tired of it. Like it's like Black History moment. Like you get to Black History Month, and it's like, yeah, it's time to elevate Black voices. And then you got 12 Years a Slave, The Butler. Like these are Black voices for Black history. I'm tired of that, man.
Yeah, it's really. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jordan.
I was just gonna say, like, then they even tend to whitewash some of those things,
Absolutely.
And they put they'll place a random white savior, like John was saying earlier. They put a white savior in there. It's just always got to be that way when Hollywood does it. So I do agree that we have to do it ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah. I was gonna say, man, I stopped watching slave movies like a few years, like maybe 2 years ago. I think once was it 13 Years a Slave?
Yeah. 12 years a slave.
12 years. Yeah. There's too many years.
Right.
I just got told like that. How many slave movies we gonna get? We just had a slave movie not that long ago. Like that, they just cranking out slave movies like this. Just the business, It's like I don't want to keep constantly being traumatized over and over and over again. And basically, I look at it as a sense of like whatever you're digesting, whatever you're absorbing in, ultimately that's kind of like what you're going to believe, right? Like the more stuff that you listen to, like if you constantly listen to stuff about finance, if you listen to stuff about stocks and investment, that's what you're going to kind of lean more so towards. So like I want to build wealth, I want to build money. If you constantly listen to motivational stuff, you're going to be very motivated. You're going to be motivating towards others, yourself, working out, being healthy, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. If you listen to ratchet stuff all the time or whatever, that's typically what you're going to kind of lean towards, being negative and ratchet, whatever. So with this, it's like if I keep absorbing all these slave movies, and I know there is a history of, well, now I know when I went to college and like my eyes start being open with stuff that I was never taught in school about Black people being African kings and queens, because you hear it, but you don't really believe it until you really start researching the stuff yourself. And I'm seeing stuff and I'm just like, oh man, look at our deep history. Like, wow, we look at Shaka Zulu was the shit. He was one of the best generals in the world. They never talk about this dude, but they constantly want to talk about Julius Caesar, or they constantly want to talk about, Napoleon, but they never talk about Shaka Zulu. And it's like, there's a reason for that. So they constantly show, I feel like, these slave movies just to have you think like, no, your history started when you were slaves. You had no history prior to slavery. And we came and saved you. And so I'm tired of seeing that. I don't want to see that anymore. And then they changed history, like Hidden Figures, where the dude went and tore the sign down. Yeah. And it's like, you're not going to treat this Black woman like that. That's never
formula.
He's a made-up character.
He's a made-up character. It's a subconscious attempt to tell Black people where you are in society. And the only way that you're going to achieve any success is if some white person steps in to save you.
Exactly. And same thing like Green Book. Green Book, they did the same, because I was so pissed off. It was the worst date ever. I'm saying, because I went in and I was like, okay, this should be cool. I support Mahershala Ali. That's what's up, So went in, watched this movie, and I felt conflicted when I watched the movie, because there was a chicken. The white man was teaching Black man how to eat chicken, and I was like, it's offensive on two different levels. Like, wait, what's going? Like, what? How are you gonna teach? You gonna teach me how to be stereotypical? And it's chicken. Who don't know how to eat chicken? And you're also showing a Black man eating chicken. So maybe it's three levels, three different reasons I was kind of upset at that. And then after the movie, I saw these articles come out where the family was just like, they never reached out to us and tried to see the whole thing was made up. Yeah. And I was extremely pissed off about this. Like, damn, man, they didn't did it again. And they were awarded for it. They were given an Oscar for lying about this story.
And that's another thing too. We got to stop putting too much stock in these Oscars, these awards and stuff like that, because they're not for us. Like, and I know we used to claim the BET awards, but that BET is owned by Viacom. Let's be honest, not by us anymore either. So we have to have our own stuff. So that's I remember when Jada and they were mad about, it was like the Oscar's so white or something like that. Like, no, we don't care. We shouldn't care about that.
Right. I don't care what. Listen, we don't need to get awards from them. We don't need to gauge ourselves by their yardstick. This is what it goes back to again. Why do we have to have the Oscars? Why can't we have the Black whatever excellence Hollywood award? Why does it have to be through their system of accolades? We can abandon that, build our own. Black people, build your own.
Because half of those movies that are winning, they're trash. Like, let's be honest, like trash.
And the Black folks that get Oscars, it's always for some sort of a stereotypical depiction that degrades, our image to the dominant society. So me, I don't even bother watching the Oscars. I don't care. It's
not even. It's a dog and pony show.
Definitely. Well, guys, thank you guys for joining me. Before we get out of here, I just wanted to give you 60 to 90 seconds about talking about what you're working on. If you have any feature films or your previous films that you may want people to go check out. So we'll start with you, Marcus. What are you working on, or if you want to speak about the Melanin Code or whatever is on your mind?
So definitely check out the Melanin Code. Go to themelanincode.com. Melanin Code 2 is coming out. Melanin Code is a solutions-based documentary that talks about building wealth within our community. I also have a horror film. It's called Unsheltered. That is, we're pitching that out to Netflixes and the Amazon Primes and all that good stuff. So be on the lookout for that. I have a few more projects that I really can't go in detail with, but they're coming out as well. So you guys will be seeing more of me anyway. So I'll keep you abreast. But definitely go to the .com because we're raising money for the second Melanin Code. So we talked about crowdfunding today. So go, let's be a part of the solution and let's get this.
Yes, sir. Mr. Tony Lindsay, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, once again, thank you for having me on the platform. I am working on several new projects. One is a documentary, and the other is another feature film. I can't really, disclose too much on that right now, but I will, encourage you all to see my film, Where Hearts Lie. The name of it is Where Hearts Lie. You can find it on Amazon Video. It's on Vimeo on demand. It's on Tubi, and it'll be released to more streaming platforms very soon. But at the end of the day, I'm very much interested in the portrayals of Black people. So, I mean, my film, it's not, we can give a very interesting and fun product without it always catering to the caricature of Blackness.
Absolutely, absolutely. John F. Thomas, tell us about any films that you're working on or the previous one.
Man, so you can catch Motor Call on Amazon. You can watch it for free on Amazon Prime. If you want to do that, I just ask that you leave a rating and review, or you can pay $5 and leave a rating and review. So I would definitely appreciate that. Or like I said, if you want to contribute directly to my company, my production company, Thomas Harry Visions Entertainment, you can do that through PayPal or Cash App. So just send me a direct message on Facebook, John F. Thomas, or on Instagram at JT Stonecutter to do that. I have some other projects, a really big project in the works right now. I can't speak on it yet because trying to make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. But I got something really, really, really big coming up soon. Tony, I told Tony about it, but I can't say anything about it yet. I don't want to jinx anything. So once it gets official, I'll let you all know. It's going to be really huge. It's going to be really big. But other than that, just watch on my Facebook page, on my Instagram page, and I'll be putting up more information soon on the projects I have coming out.
Hey, John, spell your film out again.
EMOTICAL. It's like emotion and rational put together, Emoticall.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Yeah. And last but not least, Jordan.
Yes. So my first feature film is called Me and the Dragon's Daughter. It's an action / kung fu film, and it's in post production at the moment, and the website's actually being updated right now, but that should be up soon, and we should have a trailer soon, coming in the next couple coming weeks. And I'm currently working on some other things, just like everybody else. Can't really speak on it, but yeah, my Instagram, I didn't put it on there, but it's Jordan_Bridges3. So if you want to check, I got stuff on there if you want to check that out. So. And thank you for having me, Jeff.
Thank you guys so much for being tuned in. Before you guys leave, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and go support these brothers. They have some great work out there. The Melanin Code, A Motor Call, Where Our Hearts Lie, and Jordan's film. I can't remember exactly the name, but go support all of these things. And like you said, we're continuing to build Black media. We're continuing to build up the Black film industry, and these Black filmmakers are out there on the grind every single day. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys joining me today. Once again, this is the Black Boss channel, so be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and we are out.